Okay, so welcome to this presentation. And the topic is about utilizing GitHub Copilot to help with ColdFusion development. And my name is Monty Chan. I actually did the same presentation at the Vegas summit, and that was back in the beginning of October, I believe. And in case you had attended my presentation at that time, certain things have changed since then. So there are some content that have been updated for this presentation. So first of all, who am I? I am a senior ColdFusion developer at CF Web Tools. I have used ColdFusion since version 4.5 back in 1999. I've developed web applications in different industries. And I was also one of the co-manager of the Alamo ColdFusion user group, which is based in San Antonio, Texas, which is currently where I'm residing. I do have a YouTube channel, which I just started, which is called Geek Talk. You can see the link right here. The 2004 just simply something that YouTube wanted to add some random number there. Does not mean that I started the channel back in year 2004. I am on different social media platforms, but mostly I'm on Facebook. You're more than welcome to add me on Facebook, but please indicate how you find me. I mean, nowadays there are lots of people sending some spam requests, so I just want to know who you are that are trying to add me. You're more than welcome to email me at monty@montyandjanice.chan.com, but you may get a much quicker response if you were to send me a message in the Facebook Messenger. Okay, so before we begin, at the end of the Vegas summit, one question that was rather odd but was asked to me that if I actually work for Microsoft, and so I don't. The thing is, GitHub is owned by Microsoft, so you will find a lot of materials, a lot of tutorials or instructions and all that on Microsoft website or Microsoft YouTube channel. So you will hear a lot of that from me maybe a little later on, or even when you look for that, look for some help in how to use Copilot, you will find a lot of materials on those places. But because of that, because GitHub is owned by Microsoft, that's the association. But I personally, I don't work for them. I just use a lot of their products. And we are not going to talk about all the features of GitHub Copilot. There are a lot, and I don't think just 1 hour is good enough to cover everything. So hopefully this will generate enough interest in you so you can explore the rest of the features on your own. At the time when I did the presentation in Vegas, there was while there were some alternatives, but a lot of those were still in their infancy stages. But now there are a whole lot more alternatives to GitHub Copilot. And so, for example, Codium. Please not be confused with Codium. You notice there's an E here. The Codium without the E is actually an IDE, whereas the Codium with the E is equivalent in some sense to Copilot. And there's also Amazon Q and Amazon Code Whisperer, and of course ChatGPT, and there are many, many more out there. So by no means am I saying that GitHub Copilot is the only pair programming tools out there. Okay. So what is GitHub Copilot? It is an AI pair programmer. I would say back in September of 2023, GitHub announced something called GitHub Copilot X. The X there serves as a placeholder. Basically, they want to utilize this GitHub Copilot technology in different aspects of programming. So it creates a family of products that would utilize this GitHub Copilot technology. So so it will give a more complete programming experience. For example, is one of them is Copilot Chat, which is a Chat GPT-like interface, and it comes with the individual license now. At one point, I would say about 6 months ago, you still needed to join a waitlist in order and get the approval in order to use Copilot Chats. But now Copilot Chats pretty much just comes with GitHub Copilot. There's a GitHub Copilot Voice, formerly known as GitHub. Hey GitHub. For this feature, you still need to join a waitlist. So basically, you can use natural languages to do your programming instead of doing the typing. You can just speak it, and it would do the programming for you, or as I should say, will write the code for you. And then, of course, there's the Copilot CLI, Copilot for PR, that's pull requests, Copilot for docs, and so on and so forth. You can view a lot of these on githubnext.com. So let's take a look. So by default, you will see under projects, there are all these projects that are upcoming. If you see products, those are the things that you can actually use. Some are still in research prototype, so you may not be able to do anything yet. And for those, let's say you want to take a look to see what these, let's say, spec lang is, you can click on that, and it will give you more details about this particular project. I would say almost all of them would have some kind of demo to show you what it does. And if there's a wait list, you can click on that to join a wait list, and then you just need to wait for the approval. The actual wait time for the approval varies. At one point, when GitHub Copilot Chat was still required joining a wait list. For the Copilot chats, I only had to wait for about 2 weeks roughly for them to approve. But there's the Copilot Voice, which is this one. I joined the waitlist basically from the time that it became available, and to this day, I'm still waiting for the approval. So it's been almost a year now. So so I think that the approval is basically depending on your luck. So if you see something that you like to try your hands on and the waitlist is available, please feel free to join. But I have no idea how long it would take for them to approve your request. So for GitHub Copilot, first of all, you need a GitHub account. And once you have a GitHub account, for the individual, it starts with a 30-day trial. And after that, if you still want to continue to use that, for the individual license, it's $10 per month. And for the business license, then you pay is $19 per person. And there's actually a comparison chart to show you the differences between the Copilot individual license and Copilot business license. The telemetry is basically sent for Microsoft or for GitHub to collect the data. If you are using the business license, you can actually turn that off. And for the business license, you can actually assign seats. So let's say you have so many seats available, then you can assign certain team has certain seats and so on and so forth. And for the business license, you have the options to specify to exclude certain files. Let's say certain files may not be code related, may not be something that you want a Copilot to be able to see, so you can hide those from being returned in the results. And let's say in certain cases, some organizations may have some internal VPN, so you can actually set it up so then only people within joining the VPN can use the Copilot. So if you're interested to get more information, you can come to this website. I can at the end of the presentation, you can actually I will push all these code and including the link and also the slide on my GitHub repository, so you all can take a look. Okay. At this moment, GitHub Copilot is available in different IDE. For the rest of the demos, I will be using VS Code, but it is also available in Visual Studio, NeoVim or Vim, or the JetBrains IDEs. For a list of the compatible JetBrains IDE, you can come to this link, or you can just do a Google search on that, and it will show you all the um, IDEs available that you can use GitHub Copilot on. Okay, so GitHub Copilot is trained on code found in public repositories. So the accuracy of the generated code depends greatly on the amount of codes available in the public repos. So for those technologies that don't have a whole lot of public repo, for example, I guess COBOL or something like that, then if you're still writing COBOL, then probably you are not getting some good quality codes. But let's say you are writing JavaScript or SQL or lots of other more quote unquote more popular technologies out there, the quality of the code generated would be better. And when it generates the code, you need to keep in mind that it's not so much that it's generating the code. GitHub Copilot is more like an auto completion tool. It does not have a clue what technology you're writing. It is simply trying to predict what you are going to write, so you can think of GitHub Copilot as a autocomplete on steroid. And with that in mind, you cannot just take whatever the generated code as is. And because this is, like I said, it's a more like an autocomplete. So you need to check your code, because sometimes what it generates, the variables may not be correct, the function may not exist, or the syntax sometimes may not be correct either. So you need to keep that in mind and just don't just take the code as is. Be sure to test your codes. And when it generates a code, it takes the name of your file, the code, the lines right after the cursor in your current file into consideration, and also take a look at your currently open files in your IDE to give a better syntax like what you are trying to do. And as you are so theoretically speaking, as you are writing, as you build your project up from the ground up, the more files you have, the more accurate the generated code would be. Okay, so let's see some demo right now. Okay, and to save some time, I had actually started a command box, and just started a server um, at this port. Okay, so let's start with a new file. I'll call that calculate sum of two integers 3.cfm. Okay. So based on the name of the file name alone, it it gives an idea of what I'm trying to do. Sorry about that. Okay. So you can start by writing a comment, say create a function that takes two integer and return the sum. So as you can see right now, you're already seeing the Copilot. Oh, actually, before that, I am kind of jumping the gun at this moment. To install that Copilot extension, you will go to extensions and enter GitHub Copilot. Okay. And then if you had not installed that before, you click install and then we'll do the installation. And so once it's done, you will see this little icon right here to show that this has been installed. And then you will also install the GitHub Copilot chat. And the GitHub Copilot chat, once it's installed, then you'll see this icon right here. And in case you wonder what this icon is, it's supposed to be an alien with the goggles on the top of the head. That is what it's supposed to be, in case you wonder what this is. Okay. So once you have the Copilot install, then here, as you're typing a comment or code, it will try to predict what you're trying to write. So if you mouse over this, you can see that the text, the suggested text is kind of opaque in color. And if there are different options, you can click the left arrow, right arrow to see what you want to do. And if you like what you see, you just hit tab to accept that. And in this case, it will just generate the function for me. And the language in which you write your comment actually does not even have to be English. It can be any languages. Um, to my understanding, to my knowledge, all the major languages. I obviously don't know every language that's under the sun, but from what I have tried in different languages that I uh, use, they seem to be working fine. So for example, let's try to write that in Chinese. Okay? And sometimes it would try to, so sometimes you do need to write something to, so there you go. Sometimes, as you can see, you do need to do something to trigger the Copilot to kick in to actually write the function. If not, sometimes we think that you just keep on writing comments. So in this case, as you can see, if I were to write that in Chinese and writing that in English, the function generated are exactly the same. And let's try one more. Let's try to write this comment in Spanish. I don't understand Spanish, so I take whatever Google Translate gives me, and I think that this is what um, the equivalent is in Spanish. And voila. So as you can see, the comment can be written in English, in Chinese, or in Spanish. The generated functions are all the same. And you sometimes you don't even need to write your comment. You may not be able to sometimes, even if you have typo, let's say we intentionally spell this integer to be like that. So Copilot will still know that you are trying to write integers and not this, whatever this is, and will, so some, you can have typos in your comments, and Copilot is actually smart enough to know what you're trying to do. So let's go right, put, okay. Oh, to integer without the s. Okay, so there you go. So 1 plus 2 is 3, and that's what it says. Okay. Apparently, when I share, I actually do not see the chat, so I will check in here periodically just to see if anybody has any questions. I do intend to have a Q&A time set up later on at the end of the presentation, but periodically I will check here just in case somebody has any questions about what I've said so far. Okay. Okay. So now let's start another file. We'll call that as customer form 3.cfm. And just for convenience, I have actually created this customer table in a MySQL database. And for convenience, ID is ID is also the primary key. And every field I made everything as optional just for convenience. Okay, and I've also set up the data source in my server administrator. Okay, So let's do a and since I mentioned from customer, so GitHub Copilot is thinking about, oh, okay, so it will suggest these fields that are relevant to being a customer. Notice that before I type it from customer, it would just generate anything. So now it takes into context of what I am trying to do from customer. So it will generate, okay, email, phone, address, city, state, zip, and country. And in this case, these happen to be basically the same thing as, except this one is address one. So sometimes you can, if you like the comments, I mean, like the generated code, but it's close enough to what you want, you can just take what is generated and then you just make your own modifications afterward. And in my case, the data source is called Copilot demo. Okay, as you can see, it just dumped everything that is currently in the database table. Excuse me. Okay, so now let's use chat. Chat, comparing to the time when I last presented at the Vegas Summit, many things have actually changed in the Copilot chat feature. Now there are actually a lot more options. To see all the options that are available, you can hit the slash. It shows you all the things that are available. So if you see a lot of these text too much, so you can just do new chat and we'll just start fresh. And in case you want to see more code or see more explanation on how to use this chat feature, you can do slash help, enter, and will tell you different commands that you can use to help with using GitHub Copilot chat, I mean. So let's say I want to create an HTML form with customer input fields. Okay. Okay. So this is a simple HTML form. And so if you like what you see, you can either click copy or you can insert all these at the cursor right here. Right now the cursor is right here, so I can just insert and all these would be inserted right here. But in this case, let's say I want to add some more fields. So let's say we add the rest of the fields. So let's say I want to add, uh, say, address one. Okay, or just do city. And let's add the this. This would be create customer. I know this CFM does not exist yet, which we will create a little later on and make it a post. Okay. So now let's go back here and refresh. And so you see we have a form generated. So now let's create the page that would actually take the answer and save that to the database. First name. Okay, let's do all that. And obviously we did not have all these stuff created. So let's just delete the ones I believe we did that only up to the city. Was address one. Okay. And we don't. Okay. So as you can see earlier, it was actually using the actual values, but as soon as type in colon, it notices that, oh, okay, you actually want to do it using param. So then instead of doing the values, it would actually automatically change it to param. As you can see, the generated code matches what you put in the insert in the column. Okay. And so now let's do the params. But instead of doing it like that, okay, so it was take first name, last name, email, phone, address one, and city. Okay. And as you can see, at the gen, it takes it looks into it takes the context into consideration based on what we have just written here. It would actually generate the last name, email, phone, city, and city. I mean address one and city. Okay. Again, this is not art gallery. this is the code. Okay. So after that, let's just do a CF location, get back to customer from 3, like that. Okay. So now let's try. So and since we don't have any checking of let's just type in anything here. Submit. Oh, first name. Oh, let's see. I had this one. Oh, it's called F name. I believe this is called L name. Okay. So let's try again. Okay, and there you go. It got inserted. This is the. So this is a record that we just entered, inserted. Is there any reason to have the? No, there's no particular reason. To answer Susan's question, is there any reason to have the ID and name on a field? No, there's no particular reason. It's just the way I overlook the the generated codes. So to be precise, of course, you would need to make the ID and the name to be the same. It's just my overlooking of what actually got generated. Were you talking about the address one earlier? I believe I noticed the name and the ID were different, so I corrected that, if that's what you were referring to. Okay, give me a second. So CF Dominator raw. Okay, how much of my project and environment can Copilot see? It will see everything. It it actually sees the current file that is being edited, and it sees the file that are linked to and all the current open files. So let's say if I have within the Copilot, let's say I have all these tabs open, it sees all the tabs that are open, and with more files open or more tabs open, it will take into consideration what exactly you are trying to write. So it will actually help with what Copilot generates. And then not all your repositories, basically only the current one. Only the current one that is where your files currently resides, if that's what you're asking. Does it have any awareness of things outside of the code base? Like, not exactly, only those that you are only those that you are referencing. Notice how I was using the insert into the customer, and so it knows what I'm the thing that I'm writing to. But in this case, I my demo is only for this one database. Let's say you have one huge project and it links to the other database and some other CFCs, and link to other CFCs, and those CFCs also are referencing some database, some table, those Copilot is aware to all those as well. Okay, let's get back to the Susan. I will answer that question later on. I will just try to finish up my this little presentation. And you can essentially all these stuff, instead of using it here, you can within the IDE, you can do Command I and do essentially exactly the same thing as in Copilot chat right here. So let's say you want to, so let's say, so in the IDE, if you want to open the inline chat right here, you can do Command I in Mac. I would say in on the Windows would be Control I. So you open this, so you can highlight the, let's say sometimes you have written some code or you are looking at somebody else's code and you don't understand what it is trying to do. You can highlight the lines. Let's say you want to this to be explained to you what it is doing. So you can do explain. Okay, let's try this one. Sometimes Copilot is like that. It may not understand what you are trying to do. So let's try that again. Let's say explain. Please explain to me what the selected do. Okay, so it tells you what it does in general. Okay, and let's try to do the same thing here because let's do control, right? So as you can see, yeah, so basically it's telling you basically the same thing. You also sometimes I know at least I experienced that sometimes when I write the code at the time when I write that I was like, man, this is so wonderful. But then only that maybe a few months later when I look at that, I'm not entirely sure what I was thinking either. So or sometimes when you come across code written by other developers that you are not too sure the purpose of that, that explain a feature would come in rather handy. And Copilot can also fix if the fix is rather simple. Copilot chat can actually do the fixing for you. So let's say in this case, let's delete the comma. So in this case, if I were to run this again, it will fail because the comma is missing. So what you can do is again, you can highlight the code that you want to get it fixed and do slash fix. Please fix uh, selected. Okay, it will tell you that to fix the selected code, you would need to include the missing comma between phone and address one. So if you like what it says, you can just click accept, and then so it will put the comma there for you. But let's say let's say you have something a little bit more complicated, a little bit more involved. Unfortunately, in this case, let's just try using the comma again, missing the comma. You can say, please um, s- suggest a way to fix the selected lines. Oh, I did not select the lines. Okay. In this case, it's quite obvious. It's just one comma. But sometimes, let's say you have been looking at some codes that you are not too sure why it fails, or maybe sometimes you cannot think of a way to fix certain things. This would come in rather handy, so you can ask Copilot to give you a suggestion. So at least, let's say if what the suggested way may not be the way to go, but at least that will give you some insight as to what you can try to do to fix the problems. Okay, and since the last time I presented in the Vegas summit, right now there's also added a terminal, so you can ask the something that to do in the terminal. So let's say you want to know how to start a server using command box. So it will tell you what you can do at the command line to start the server and so on. So as far as the the presentation is concerned, that is pretty much it. So here are some tips and tricks. So be sure to be precise when you are asking Copilot to help you. The more general it is, just like any other conversation, when you ask someone how to do certain things, the more specific that you can provide, the better it is. If not, the answers that you get would be somewhat general. And so be descriptive in your file names or variables names and function names that will give Copilot a better context in what you're dealing with or what you're trying to do. So then Copilot would generate something that is more relevant to what you're trying to do. And because Copilot is aware of the tabs that you have open, so the more tabs that you have open, especially those are relating to what you're trying to do, it will give Copilot a better context in what to generate for you. Again, keep in mind that GitHub Copilot is an autocomplete on steroid. It really does not have any idea of what language you're writing. So the suggested code may or may not have the correct syntax. Sometimes maybe you have a missing bracket, maybe a missing semicolon. Some of the variables or functions may not exist. So be sure to test your code. Don't just take the generated codes as is. So also Copilot is trained on data found in the public repositories. So the more ColdFusion codes we have in the public repositories, you would actually get better results. So here are some other resources that you can do to get you can go to get more information. For example, the GitHub YouTube channel. You can also go to the VS Code YouTube channel, then that would be more specific to how GitHub Copilot can be used within VS Code. So if you do not use VS Code as your IDE, then perhaps you would go to the YouTube channel of those, or go to the websites of the IDE of your choice. And again, because GitHub is owned by Microsoft, so you'll find a lot of the materials on Microsoft website, or you can go to Microsoft the developer YouTube channel. They do put out Copilot related uh, clips periodically. And of course, you can go to GitHub Next, which I showed you before I started the presentation, to see all the upcoming GitHub Copilot related technologies. And so now is question time. So let's see. Will there be a saved copy? What do you mean by saved copy? Is there a way to you technically, Jeff, the question is there a way to tell Copilot about the repository that uh, I personally have never tried that, but I believe that because Copilot chat is kind of like Chat GPT, it keeps a it takes all the past conversation, or at least in this session, into context and suggestions. So perhaps you can tell Copilot to say, please look into only these repositories, and then after that, then you ask your questions. That might help. I personally have never tried it, but I would assume that should work. But you are more than welcome to try that yourself. For okay, for a CF Dominator, this, unfortunately, as far as the confidentiality is concerned, the only way that I can see that happening is if you look at the Copilot business, that would be the telemetry feature. If you want to keep your result private, and it appears that the only way for you to do that is to not use the telemetry feature, which would be under the organization's the Copilot business license. No, as you can see here, this is the exclude specific files. That is not an available feature under Copilot individual. So no, you have to get the Copilot business license in order for that to happen. Oh yes, I can. You can go to my. Let's see. You can go to my GitHub. I'll share my GitHub account information here. Let's see, GitHub. Let's see. Oh, this one, Copilot demo. And so you can go there and you will take a look at all the codes. And after this presentation, I will also upload my PowerPoint slide into that repo as well. Is Copilot available for Dreamweaver? I don't think so. Let's see. So these are in the slide that which I will upload. It will actually show you all the IDEs that are currently available. To my knowledge, right now Copilot is only available in VS Code, Visual Studio, NeoVim, Vim, and a whole bunch of JetBrains compatible IDE. Dreamweaver is definitely does not fall into any of these categories. So at this moment, no Dreamweaver cannot use Copilot.